Maybe you never heard the name of the author that I want to talk about in this episode, but I'm sure that many of you have heard some of his beautiful writings without being aware that he wrote it. It might have happened while you were moved by a beautiful speech during a wedding ceremony, or you heard soothing words during a memorial speech at a funeral, or maybe you know the work of Kahlil Gibran very well. And like many people, you have read his most famous work called The Prophet dozens of times. Either way, I'm quite sure that when you came across his words, it almost certainly enriched your understanding of what it truly means to be human. Welcome back to Bold Books and Bones. Recently, I found this biography about Kahlil Gibran at the weekly Friday open air book market in Amsterdam. I have no regrets that I purchased it because for years I wondered, who is this man Kahlil Gibran, and how is it possible that one human being can have such profound insights about life? Now, in this book written by Suheil Bushrui and Jenkins, I finally find some answers to this question. Therefore, here are some remarkable moments of his life that I'd like to share with you. If we were to represent the duration of Kahlil Gibran's life with a line, it would unfortunately be rather short, as he spent only 48 years on this earth. He was born in Lebanon on January the 6th, 1883, and he died in New York on April the 10th, 1931. Within this brief lifetime, he experienced a vibrant existence brimming with moments of creativity, love, and unfortunately, deep tragedy. As a young Arab man of only 12 years of age and coming from a broken family, he, his mother, and his siblings had to exchange their beloved hometown in Lebanon for the slum-like, overcrowded and notoriously impoverished south end of Boston in the United States. While his mother tried to make ends meet with hard labor work, she sends her youngest son to a local school for boys. There his name was misspelled and shortened from Gibran Kahlil Gibran to just Kahlil Gibran. Now, this young immigrant in a new country, living in poor conditions with an altered name, soon began to be noticed by his American community due to his fortitude, resilience, and his insatiable urge to create. It all started with two women. One was Florence Pierce, who was his art teacher, and Jessie Beal, who was a social worker. They saw his artistic potential and introduced him to a man called Fred Holland Day. This man, who was an admirer of Oscar Wilde, is described as a colorful personality. He had a passion for books, was a publisher, and was highly knowledgeable in literature. What was exceptional for his time is that Holland Day was an early advocate for accepting photography as a fine art. And that is why in this beautiful book about the life and photography of Fred Holland Day, we can find a picture of the young Kahlil Gibran when he was only 15 years old. So suddenly, and that is important for what was to come, this young immigrant man from the poor south side of Boston discovered, under the guidance of Fred Holland Day, a stimulating and creative environment filled with literature and art. Fred Holland Day became one of his early mentors and introduced him to the works of many writers and thinkers who have helped in shaping Gibran's work. One who had a considerable influence on Gibran was the work of the British painter and poet William Blake. I was surprised and pleased to learn that also the Belgian author Maurice Maeterlinck, through his books like The Treasure of the Humble, played a part in shaping the mind of Kahlil Gibran. Both books, The Treasure of the Humble by Maeterlinck and The Prophet by Gibran, have a special meaning to me. However, I never knew that there might have been a link between these two exceptional writings. If you're interested, I have created an episode on silence on this channel, in which I explore some of the thoughtful reflections on silence by Maurice Maeterlinck from his book The Treasure of the Humble. Now, back to Kahlil Gibran. The theme of mentorship by different people continued throughout his early adult years. Even when he returned to Lebanon to continue his education when he was just 15 years old, he was lucky to find also there people that would guide him. From this period of his life, I particularly like the story that shows how open-minded some of his Lebanese teachers were towards this boy who had a clear expectation of how his teachers should behave towards him. Here's an example of what I mean. One of his teachers who had an enduring influence on him at the Madrasat al-Hikmah college in Lebanon was Yusuf Haddad. And during a disagreement between them, in which Gibran complained about his demotion to the elementary class, Haddad explained that learning was like climbing a ladder. One must climb each rung one at a time. To the teacher's surprise, the young Kahlil Gibran replied, "Does the teacher not know that the bird does not ascend a ladder in its flight?" And instead of punishing or neglecting this rebellious student, Yusuf Haddad saw the potential of this young man and defended his case to the principal, who, after much persuasion, accepted the student Gibran on his own terms. This example appears to be a fundamental aspect of every life. When the right teachers or mentors come into one's life, they will always positively influence and shape the destiny of any young person. Now, Yusuf Haddad not only coached him in his writing, but also introduced him to the wealth of Arabic and Syriac literature. From an early age in his life, he was immersed in this rich tapestry of both Western and Eastern literary traditions. He received guidance from different mentors, both men and women, and one particular woman named Mary Haskell played an exceptionally important role throughout his life. She was almost a decade older than him, and there was a special bond between them. She provided him with encouragement, with guidance and financial assistance so he could pursue his artistic and literary aspirations. Now, I think it is safe to say that it was the collective influence of all these men and women that profoundly shaped his literary works. Over the course of his lifetime, he had the privilege of meeting a multitude of influential thinkers and artists, and he remained attuned to the political events that shaped his era. For example, during his stay in Paris, he became friends with the sculptor Auguste Rodin. In New York, he had conversations with Carl Gustav Jung, Albert Pinkham Ryder, and the Lebanese author and friend Mikhail Naimi, and many others. And he was engaged in organizing support for the liberation of Lebanon and Syria, and so on. I believe that here may lie at least an important part of the answer to my question: how can one human being have such profound insights about life? Because from this biography, we learn that Kahlil Gibran received a lot of love and support from so many who saw and encouraged his talents and who stood by him in moments of deep tragedy. For example, when he lost at a rather young age his mother and several of his siblings while being in a foreign country. And it is of course also the broad spectrum of literary and artistic influences that has shaped his beautiful writing, spanning across religions, across philosophies, and across geographical boundaries. It must have been this diversity of influences that shaped his work into a timeless and universal message, reminding us of our interconnectedness with all things. Both his writings and his paintings are a beautiful tribute to the oneness of humanity. That is such a refreshing way to look at humanity, especially in these current times where we see so many divisive leaders and unnecessary division between different communities on this planet. That is why his work resonates with so many of us. And it is no wonder that the Prophet has achieved such significant success in terms of sales and translations. It is estimated that over 100 million copies of the Prophet have been sold worldwide. Throughout his life, Kahlil Gibran endured a poor health. His relentless dedication to his creative pursuits, coupled with excessive smoking, drinking strong coffee and alcohol consumption, did take its toll. At age 48, his body could no longer support his restless spirit, and he died at this young age in a hospital in New York. Later, he was laid to rest with great tribute in Lebanon, the land of his birth. Let's now take a moment and turn to his most famous work called The Prophet. To me, this little book contains more wisdom than all the books on psychology that I've ever read combined. The story is rather simple. An elderly man prepares to depart from his village as his long-awaited ship has finally arrived, signaling the time for him to bid farewell to everything he has known. And upon reaching the town square on the day of his departure, the villagers gather to greet him, and they respectfully request one last time to share his wisdom with them. And with kindness he agrees, and he is met with a series of questions from individuals of all walks of life. It are simple questions like, tell us about children, tell us about love, tell us about life, about marriage, tell us about work, and he is even asked to talk about death. Here is a short passage. And the woman who held a baby against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not back, nor lingers with yesterday," and so on. The old man's responses to his fellow townsmen's questions are characterized by exceptional beauty and offer profound insights into essential human topics. I first read The Prophet when I was about 16 years old, and like so many others who read it for the first time, I immediately felt a strong sense of connection with some of the passages. It was as if many of the sentences spoke directly to my own experiences and struggles. Little did I know back then that over the years this book would become a gift that keeps on giving. As time has passed, my understanding of Kahlil Gibran's writings has continued to evolve. And this is of course very personal, and different people might find different insights depending on where they are in life. Each time I go back to The Prophet, my life has known new experiences, some positive and some less so. When I then reread passages from this remarkable text, I find myself reconnecting with them in a new way, leading me to realize the profound depth of Kahlil Gibran's understanding of life and nature. It shows to me once more that poetry, or prose poetry for this matter, serves as more than just entertainment or pleasure. Poetry is a powerful medium for uncovering deeper truth about our human experience. It reveals insights, perspectives, and emotions that other types of writings may not fully capture. The ability of poetry to evoke empathy, provoke thought, and inspire contemplation makes it, at least in my understanding, an essential part of what it means to be a human being. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Bold Books and Bones. Let me know what you think about Kahlil Gibran or about poetry in general. And don't forget to like and subscribe so I can continue to make episodes like these. Bye for now, and hope to see you in the next episode of Bold Books and Bones.